Hey, welcome to On the Path podcast with Cheryl Nembhard. You know, since I was a kid, I was told my conversations were way too deep. Well, now it's paying off. Join me and the names you know as we go deep into their personal stories of triumph, tragedy, and the lessons they've learned along the way. Friends, this crazy, overwhelming life we live calls for some serious encouragement and inspiration. So grab a cup of coffee and get your notebook because we're going into the classroom of life. So let's get lifted with faith-filled conversations. I'll see you on the path.
You're listening to On the Path with Cheryl Nembhard, brought to you by Compassion Canada.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of On the Path. I am buzzing over here. I know that I get excited about my guests, but let me tell you why I feel I have won at life. I have literally collected, finally, the Infinity Stones. I feel like Thanos. I have now spoken to every Evans sibling there is. I have collected the whole set, and they are a powerhouse family. And this I do believe, as they say, you save the best for last. I'm so excited to introduce this guest to you. It's a name that you may know or not, but you're going to love her and love this conversation. Let me tell you about the powerhouse that is Chrystal Evans Hurst. Chrystal Evans Hurst is a speaker and the best-selling author of She's Still There, Kingdom Women, and Show Up for Your Life, and the newly released 28 Days of Prayer. Chrystal is an encourager who teaches people to love God, to love others, and to love themselves. She's a founder and visionary of Sister Circle, which is powerful, a community and platform aimed at equipping, encouraging, and empowering women in their faith. She's a wife, a mother of 5, y'all, and a grandmother of 5. Incredible, and she looks amazing. You can find Chrystal sharing regular encouragement via podcasts and blogs and on her website, ChrystalEvansHurst.com. Would you please give a huge Canadian welcome to Chrystal Evans Hurst?
I'm so glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
I'm so happy.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, Chrystal, it's so good to have you. Welcome to On the Path, my sister.
Thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
Listen, I am so excited because I have spoken to, and I say the Infinity Stones, I really do mean it in the most honoring way. All of you, I'm just like, if I can just have Chrystal, somehow my TV hosting life is just like, it's just falling into place. I love it. And we've been trying to get this on the books for a while. And I think the best way to start is to get to know you. We do it in a fun way over here. Okay. I'll ask you this question, Chrystal. If your life was a movie, what title would you give it and why?
Pretty Woman.
Do share.
It's your traditional rags to riches Cinderella story of a woman who does not know her worth, who meets a man who has ulterior motives, but of course he falls in love with her and her whole life shifts. We need Pretty Woman Take 2. What happened after Richard Gere and Julia Roberts connected? But I just think, one, it's, my favorite movie. I've probably watched it, 20 times. But I just love the idea that she is awakening to her life. She's awakening to what's possible, and the exposure that she has to things that she didn't know she had access to changes her own expectation for what's possible. And I think a lot of women, regardless of what their background is, we all have the propensity, because of our upbringing and stories of origin, or because of maybe a bad relationship, or, that friend group you weren't allowed in or you got kicked out, we can question what we should have access to. But we all have access to what God says we have access to. We just have to learn to agree with him about it and then act as if it's so. So that's what I would say, and that's why.
Oh, I love that, Crystal. Oh gosh, I'm gonna love this conversation. And you've authored some really powerful books like She's Still There, Kingdom Woman, and now your recent devotional that you put out a few years ago, 28 Days of Prayer. You are a woman who is passionate about people connecting in a deeper way to God. When you write, I wonder what's your hope for the reader? What do you always hope they come away with when you minister? What's sort of the thing that is your driver? I really want people to get this.
Well, I think I mean, I've done all the Bible studies. I have read all the books, not all, but a lot. And I know the feeling when I'm reading that this is great information and this is truth, no doubt. But what do I do with it? And so I think sometimes in my experience, when I would read books or listen to people speak or even read blogs back in the day before a podcast, everybody had a podcast. I was most attached and attracted to the people who would read and share with me, who also said, and this is what it looked like for me, who were willing to tell hard stories, who were willing to share a little bit of the mess so that I could know that what you're teaching is truth, but it can apply to me. It can reach to me. So because I'd read so many books where I was like, I'm not sure if this can apply to me because your life probably isn't like mine. I am very committed to sharing my life in a way that allows me to show people how I did it. That's where She's Still There came from. What does it look like for a girl who gets pregnant in her teenage years to find out more about God and also more about herself along the way? That's what 28 Days of Prayer is. It is me writing out prayers because I'm struggling to be consistent in prayer. So I'm going to write them out and y'all can follow along. And after that, there's a book. Even the most recent one I just put out, 100 Days of Discovering the Gift of You, that's a chapter in She's Still There. And we had so many women that said, but how do I discover that? So I expanded that to 100 days to walk women through, this is the mindset shift. These are the scriptures. This is what you do differently. This is what it looked like for me. So my desire is that people would get off the shelf of church and all the things that are safe and get into the kitchen and let's cook.
Ooh, ooh. She's dropping bars early in the game, people. I love it. I love it. I love it. I want to ask you this question because prayer is such a huge pillar in your life. How has prayer personally transformed, Crystal?
Well, it sounds a little selfish, but it's the first thing that came to mind. Praying, we know we should do it, and we often do it. Usually we get pushed to it when something is wrong in our lives. But this idea that we have the opportunity to have constant communication with the God who authored and fathered the universe, and that even though we are living in a physical realm, we have access to the spiritual realm, which should inform our physical decisions. That is a gift. And so why would anybody not access that realm and access the Father who has all the information? So how it's impacted me is when it's have you ever had a situation where as you being a child or maybe one of your kids, where you said yes and your child was like, for real? Or, if you were a child and your dad or mom were like, sure, no problem. And you're like, seriously? I think seeing God answer requests that you ask, even if you didn't think he was going to do it, it makes you go, oh, for real? Like there is a God, like he heard me. Simple things. My friend and I were going to a record shop 15, 20 years ago. And we were looking at a record with the soundtrack for a play that was in town because neither one of us could afford to go to the play. So we were like, we're just going to go to the record shop. And then we were listening to the soundtrack of the play. No lie. Literally over the records, we said, you know what? This is the kind of thing we probably should be praying about. Girl, God is not going to give us tickets to this show. He's not concerned about that. And then one of us said, okay, God, if you can hear us, give us tickets to this show. We were in jest. No lie. We're listening to this record. Like 10 minutes in, this guy walks in, sees us listening to the record, and he says, that's a great soundtrack, isn't it? We were like, yeah, we know. He said, have you been to see the show? We said, no, we were actually going to go tonight. We can't afford it. And he said, well, my date canceled. I have 2 tickets for another show this week. Do you want them? Now, I'm not trying to, God is not a Santa Claus. He's not a slot machine.
Yeah.
However,
Yes.
I think when we pray, what happens is we get to see God say yes. And you can't get a yes that you don't ask a question for. You
Oh,
can't serve a God who gets
so
bigger
good.
because you praise him if you don't sometimes praise him when you don't have the answers that you want.
Mm,
Like, prayer is an opportunity for us to grow in our faith because we get to know the God who actually shows up in our everyday life.
so good. Oh my goodness. I love it. Thank you. Thank you for that. And I pray that we all continue to find the relationship, the transparency, the authenticity to just ask. I think we're afraid to ask. And so
Yes.
thank you for that. That's beautiful. And you know, you've launched an incredible ministry some time back. I really have always I've been holding this question in my heart because we're both passionate about women's ministry and really launching women deeper, further. You launched Sister Circle, and it's become this incredible movement of women. I wanted to know, what was your heart behind it? What brought that into your heart of like, I need to do this for this reason?
Well, a couple of things. The main thing, I was writing She's Still There, and it was a chapter. And I thought, all of my life, I've had sister circles. I was always the girl who was on the playground that wanted everybody to get along. Or I was always the girl who, when I was a junior higher, a group of us, we called ourselves the Christian Angels because we were going to get together and study the Bible before youth group. Or in college, I got a group. So I was always gathering women, even when I started having babies. When Yahoo groups were a thing, I created a group called the Moms Friendship Circle because I really wanted moms I knew to live next door to me so I could go get a cup of sugar and our kids could play in the backyard. And I didn't have that. And so the Sister Circle was a chapter in She's Still There to talk about the importance of connectivity in these seasons of womanhood that we live through. And when I was writing that chapter, and also number two, thinking, I'm out in this world doing things, like, aren't I supposed to have like a ministry or something that's a title? And I didn't want to have my name on it. And I was like, the Sister Circle is the thing. So that's how kind of it came to be. And I really just believe that I'm a connector of women, and I like to connect with women in my physical world. And I also like to create space for women to connect in the virtual world. And so that's how it came to be. Born out of a chapter, expanded through a mindset for ministry. And it continues to be terminology that I use because I really believe that we are better together. And Titus 2:5 clearly says that women should teach women. And where do we do that? In the circles of influence where we live.
Oh man, that's so so good. I'm so thankful for it, and we're going to be giving all of those show notes, but we can find more information on your website, or does it have its own website as well?
I missed the last part of the question.
Oh, the Sister Circle,
The
does it have
website.
its own website as well?
Oh, yes. So you can visit me, Chrystal Evans Hurst, .com, and get to the Sister Circle. You can also go straight to thesistercircle.com.
Beautiful. That's beautiful. Thank you for that. Well, I always believe that, I consider you someone who has changed many people's lives. I've just been stalking you and getting to know you online, and in really safe ways. You're safe.
Yeah, 'cause there's evil stalking, and then there's like, you're blessing me and I want to understand more about you stalking. Stalking
Right.
has to have two connotations in this world because honestly, it's how we get to know people
I
that are
know.
blessing our lives.
I know, I know. And I was like, this is a lot of consumption. I just got to let her know she's safe. But what I love, you have impacted so many people just the way you live because you are just so authentic. And I got to say, you have every right, just by upbringing, stature, name, placement, platform, that you could be closed off and you could be all these other things that we've seen in so-called celebrity Christendom. You have chosen, you have pushed back on that all the way against culture, against all those societal things. And you live authentically, Chrystal. I just wanted to say, like, hats off to you. It's just my moment to give you your flowers. You're a world changer for so many people. And I always believe that someone who is like that has had their world influenced and shaped and molded by other people. And I thought, as I'm giving you your flowers, let's give someone else their flowers. Who were some of the biggest mentors in your life, Chrystal? And maybe a life lesson that's never left you that they taught you.
So Sally Clarkson, who is a speaker, an author, a writer, who has a ministry primarily to moms, and she was a homeschool mom herself. So at the time I learned about her, I was homeschooling my kids. And so I started following her and just eating everything alive because I don't want to screw up my kids and I also don't want to pull out my hair. And her ministry is bigger than homeschool moms, but I came to know her then. She offered like an intensive for speakers and writers. And so I was like, well, maybe I want to do that. I'd always wanted to write. I figured I would write a book by the time I was 60, 65, because by then I'd be safe. I'd know which of my kids I could talk about and which ones I would not want to talk about. And, but it was an opportunity. It was not expensive. So I went. That led to an invitation to another intensive. And at that intensive, it was held in her home in Colorado. And I had to give a 3-minute talk. After the 3-minute talk, she and another woman who were there to give feedback, they came to me and said, Chrystal, we don't think you understand what you have. And she said, and I said, well, I said, but I'm like Priscilla always was aiming towards communication. She majored in communication, started off early doing talks for corporate training for Zig Ziglar. She worked at a radio station. She's always been in communication. I'm a reader and a journaler and a feeler. And so writing was on my radar, not speaking. And Sally said to me, as she kind of nurtured me to walk in my giftings through her books and through her teachings over the years. But at that moment, she said, don't discount the 40 years you've been sitting in class on the front row. Wow. So it had never occurred to me. Of course, I know I've been raised in a Christian home. Of course, I know my dad is an amazing preacher. But the way she stated that was, you are discounting the opportunities that you've had to grow, even if they've been passive. And the second lady that was with her said, you need to stop looking to validate who you are and accept who you already are and what you've already been given. And I think that is, I learned a lot from her speaking. I learned a lot from her writing, but more importantly, I learned to embrace what I have. That not only means the teaching that I've had being in church, listening to my dad as a preacher and learning how to construct a well put together talk, because he does a great job with that. But it also has taught me to embrace what I have, the parts that people try to hide, because these are the best parts that we learn from. It's because I'm willing to say, hey, this is what it felt like when I called my parents to tell them I was pregnant. Here's what it looked like to be in a circular relationship for a long period of time. Here's what it looked like to be insecure, or for me to say to this day, I still struggle with that. The willingness to embrace authenticity, because this is who I am. Embracing that is a part of the package. And so I think the life lesson that I've learned, that I still am constantly learning, that I try to extend to other people is, and I even say this in my speaking and writing workshops, which I now hold because she told me to, when you bring something to the forefront in a book, in a talk, in your family, with who you're mentoring, you have to remind yourself, I'm bringing me. What is me? My experience. Because the lessons don't change. God's truth is the same yesterday, today, and forever. But your experience of them is unique. And so your willingness to share that experience with your spouse, with your kids, with your disciples, with your mentees, in your small group, at your church, in your community, that's what puts the gospel on legs that people can actually see walking. So life lesson, show up as yourself.
I love that. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. I love that. And how long have you been doing these workshops? How many years would you say you've been doing these sort of writing?
The first year I did it was 2017.
Fantastic. Wow. Wow. So good. Well, it's funny, as you were sort of sharing from your life, you started to name some things, which I haven't connected the dots for some people here in Canada who may not know, haven't really figured it out yet. So let me just say this. I made a joke earlier in the intro, guys, about feeling like Thanos, feeling like I've connected the Infinity Stones, I've collected them, I've gathered them across the galaxies. And what I meant was this powerhouse family I have grown up with and loved and adored from a distance. And I've had the privilege of interviewing now all the siblings. Chrystal Evans Hurst comes from an absolute powerhouse empire of faith, daughter of Dr. Tony Evans, siblings to no order. Jonathan Evans, chaplain, pastor, speaker, author, incredible man of God. Anthony Evans, just a global music phenomenon. And Priscilla Shire, speaker, author, and now film actress, excuse me. doing her thing. And I can't imagine. This question I've asked all your siblings. All of them I've asked this exact question. And the answers, I should put together a montage because you would laugh. They mentioned some stories of you as well.
They always do. And I probably could tell you what they are, but that's okay. We're gonna let them make it.
They were scared of Chrystal. She don't play, let me tell you. But Chrystal, what was it like growing up Evans?
Well, the thing is, we didn't know we were growing up Evans, and my parents made it very clear that if my dad was not a pastor of the church, that we would still be growing up Evans. And many of the things that he did in our home reckon back to things that his father had done in his home. So dinner at the table, devotions at the table, even if kids were crawling underneath the table, we sat there. We watched TV 1 hour a week, The Cosby Show on Thursday nights. We had to have extra permission to watch A Different World. And then when it got risque, we couldn't always watch that, except for Little House on the Prairie. We watched that after school every day. TV and media was different then than it was now. But we had a lot of forced fellowship, a lot of boredom, a lot of togetherness. My parents, while we were involved with church, we were not forced to be hyper involved with church. So he would say to us, you're in Evans, and don't forget you're in Evans. When you leave this house, you're representing our family. He would also say, even if I wasn't the pastor, we'd still be going to church on Sunday morning and Sunday night, and I would still insist that you serve. So what was kind of repeated and got into our the fabric of our design, I think, is that who we were as a family was who we were going to be regardless. Now, there's an Evans version now that was not the Evans version we grew up with. We were in the building stages. I was 4 years old when the church started. So I remember the smallest church. I remember, staying behind to clean things and the bathroom not working. I remember that. So Evans now is not what Evans was then. In fact, we have to tell our children, because they have a different version of Evans than we had. We're not doing that. And no, they don't save you a seat. And no, you don't have, because it is different. But we were just dinner on the table, leftovers. My mother had a shoebox wrapped in Christmas wrapping paper, and she cut a slit in the top because we put all of our tithes in the box. So Dad could take our family tithes and take them to church. So it was a very regular existence with very committed and consistent parents, very hardworking parents. And when you're starting a church, it's a lot like starting a business. So they were very entrepreneurial. And I think the two of them fit together like a glove. Her strengths magnified his strengths, and they were able to cover well for each other's weaknesses in a way that it didn't detract from what they were trying to do. But consistency, commitment, and obviously loyalty to Christ. Both of them had their individual commitments, and I think we just got the runoff of that. But they also got the runoff of that from their parents. So we just got to sop up some generational blessing and investment. And I just always like to say, if you're a Christian parent and you're doing the best you can, that does not guarantee that your kids do whatever they're going to do, because even Adam and Eve had a great father and they made decisions. So we all get to make decisions. And you're also looking at where we are now. People have not had to go through the mud with some of us between the ages of 15, 25, and 30. So it's not all perfect, but we did have consistent commitment to always come back to. And that was built largely around talent shows on a Thursday night or Friday night, vacations in the car together for 40 hours before we get where we were going, came to Canada when we went to see the Niagara Falls.
Right.
Vacation wasn't optional. I had to miss volleyball camp at the beginning of the school year because in high school, my father was like, that doesn't trump family. So I think basic family commitment, consistent, integrous relationship with the Lord, and we just got the runoff of that.
And do you find that you are handing down those legacies to your family?
I'm trying. We'll see. I just keep reminding myself that when I'm looking at the kids and maybe they're struggling in a season, or, oh my gosh, am I telling them this again? Or, are they really embracing their faith as their own? I remember the seasons of my life and think my parents probably had these thoughts too. But do I do devotions with the kids? Yes. Have we read books together? Do we have family talent shows? Yes. Do we take vacations together? Yes. And my life has been different. Blended family, and my husband and I, we've been married almost 25 years, but he's had 15 years of lots of health challenges in and out. So it hasn't looked the same because we've had to navigate a lot of that. But am I pouring what I've got? I think so. And then the Lord has to reach their heart because it's Jesus who draws all men unto himself. But
Come
hopefully
on.
we've planted some seeds.
Oh, Chrystal. Love it. Love it. Love it. Out of the four of you, between you, Jonathan, Anthony, and Priscilla, who's the most real and authentic? Who was always the one that said it like it was, told it like it is? Yep. That's what I just wanted to get that out because that's what they said. They were like, Chrystal will speak her mind. You were the brave one. Sometimes I don't know if you were nominated to speak on behalf of, but there was this like just warrior in you that you were like, no, that's not right. You would be the one.
I have a strong clapback game if needed.
Yes, yes. I love it. Well, listen, I get to ask every guest kind of as we're winding down this question because I just think, I just know your answers are all so rich. You're so grounded in your faith. I know it's going to be what we need to hear. I always say that storms are our greatest teachers. What we learn and how we're molded and our character, all the things that shape us, it doesn't happen in the shiny, warm, fuzzy. It happens, when you want a white flag, when your back's against the wall, when it's the toughest season of your life. That's where you really develop. So I wondered, what have the rock bottom moments of your life, Chrystal, taught you about God, taught you about you, Chrystal, and taught you about community and maybe the role it plays in your life?
Yeah, sure. Well, rock bottom has taught me because I've had enough of them. So this is a cumulative teaching that God does not fail me. He does not fail me. In the moment, it may feel like that. In the moment, I may have questions. In the moment, it may feel unfair. I can feel the anxiety piling up. But over time, when I look back, every situation where I've thought he was failing me, he wasn't failing me. He may have been failing me forward. He takes us to glory, from glory to glory. And I can look back and see that every stumble was a step up. I just didn't know it in the moment. So he's taught me that he doesn't fail. What I've learned is that I don't have to freak out. And I don't have to freak out by fixing it because I'm a pretty good fixer. I'm a pretty good solution maker. But I sometimes am in a frenetic mess doing that. Rushing to solve a problem that he can solve in his timing. He makes all things beautiful in his time. So I've learned how to ask, what do you want me to do? And if the answer is just sit and wait, to sit and wait, and also do so without the combustible freneticism that we feel on the inside when we think it's all up to us. And with community, God is teaching me that no matter how good your access to community is or how much you need it and don't have it, you have to work at it. I have friends that I've had for 30 years. I can pick up the phone today and say, hey girl, let me catch you up. But what is a better use of community? It's consistent investment that we once a month decide not just to talk and yap, but also to challenge each other in the faith. What is God teaching you? How can I pray? There's a next level to that. We are not complete without community. God designed us for community. Jesus, he walked it out in front of us because he didn't need the disciples. You know what I mean? Like he chose to operate that way and he brought them along with him, letting them see him on the journey. And so the challenge for me in community is let people see you. Let them know that you have need. Share when it's not terrible. Bring them into your faith. Be intentional so that you don't just have friends and people to hang out with or people that you've known for 30 years, that you have prayer warriors, that you have people who actually know how you're doing, and that they have the freedom to challenge and speak into your life as necessary. So what I'm doing is taking people I have, because I have lots of people, and being intentional in that community for them and letting them be the same for me.
Chrystal, as I said, you are safe with me, but I have been stalking you. I've been stalking you on social, and you have been in a season, you've been posting a lot recently about making room for rest, Even had sort of this whole thing about take that nap, sis. I honestly laughed out loud because it's something that I struggle with. It's literally something I don't do. I probably on the average get about like 4 to 5 hours of sleep. It's a whole thing. And I'm always going, like many people, all systems go, burning, burning, burning. I wanted to know, for those of us who have struggled, who have seen busyness as strength and rest as weakness, how did you right size that? What do we need to know? Help us, Chrystal, please.
Well, first of all, who says I've right sized it? Maybe, maybe I'm learning, and sharing what I'm learning.
Yes.
But I think because I've seen in my life people that have rest postures accomplish so much without burning themselves out. And I don't want to detract from my personality because I am a driving personality and I don't want to feel bad about that. I also want to recognize the difference between my striving and God stretching me. And there is a difference. And so the question is, has God invited me in? Or am I pushing my way? And so one of the questions I ask myself at night before I go to sleep is, because when I want to stay up and get things done is, can this wait? Does it have to be done now? And if God were sitting here next to me, would he tell me that sleep is more important? When I'm feeling myself wig out, because I will wig out, I literally have learned to go take a nap. I just need to go lay down for a minute to reset myself because I've seen what happens when I do. And I'm not a napper, and I'm with you. I mean, on a regular 5 to 6 is plenty. I mean, even if I go down early, then I'll wake up at 3 a.m. You know what I mean? Like my body just doesn't need it. However, I think that I have cheated the system more often than I should have when my body did need it. And I paid the price in snappiness to someone or not giving my best. So I'm learning to lean into the Lord for how much is enough and to drive where he's driving and to rest when things are out of whack.
Yeah. And it reminds me of the verse, it's when I think about you and just your life, it's such a big life you live. And even just pouring out generationally now with 5 grandkids, it's nonstop for you. The Bible says, to whom much is given, much is required. And I wonder, how do you stay grounded when life gets really chaotic for you?
How do I stay grounded? Man. Well, there are pillars in my life, and I will judge my groundedness by whether or not those pillars have enough room to breathe.
Oh,
So
wow.
sleep is one. And again, I'm not a 9-hour person, but if I find myself getting too many 4 or 5s in a row, that's not good. Another is working out. Another is eating at home. Another is time for Bible study, and another is time for friends. My sister is like, I cannot believe. She said, why are you meeting so-and-so at 5 o'clock in the morning? I'm like, because that's the time that works best for both of us. And I am committed to connecting with people over coffee. It might be once a month or twice a month, but I fight for that because if I can't put that on my calendar, then something else has to go. If I can't work out because I never have time, then what is taking the time? Those things have to fit. So I've been in Bible study fellowship for years, and I go and literally someone said to me, girl, you're out here teaching Bible studies. You don't need to be in here. Yes, I do. Because if I am not effectively and efficiently putting myself at the feet of someone else to learn, then eventually I will run dry in trying to feed other people. So those are the types of things that I put in. If I'm eating out in the drive-through, not eating, then that's a symptom of me not being in correct sync with my life. So those are the 5 things that I look at to make sure that I'm living the life that's balanced that I want to live.
Well, it's thank you for that. We needed to hear that. Absolutely. And that was for me. I know I'm going to probably play that back and take that with me where I go because I need to hear that. We were praying a little bit. I had the privilege of praying for you, honor actually of praying for you. And we were laughing because I referred to this year as a dumpster fire, which it is. And I just, I think you're such an encourager, Chrystal. You're such an encourager. So for those of us who are overwhelmed, really discouraged by what we're seeing. Maybe a bit battle worn, wounded, beaten up, have suffered just the tensions of camps and polarizations and, arguments and fight. It's been nuts. An encouraging word or even something you've had to tell yourself or your family just to keep it together.
My mother said regularly, "This too shall pass." We are not the only ones who have lived through very challenging cultural and political seasons. We are not the only ones who have liked, loved, or disliked or hated who's in power. We are not the only ones who thought, why is our money not stretching to buy eggs the way they used to? We are not the only ones who had to figure out how to feed a family without much money in the bank. We're not the only ones, and we will not be the last. So the thing is, while it feels detrimental, overwhelming, team too much, very triggering, all these different things, this too will pass. And the question I want to ask myself always is, when I tell this story to my children, what's the story I want to tell? Because we're all living a chapter. And when this chapter is done being written, what will we say about it? So I like to make sure that when I am overwhelmed, I literally sometimes go in church services for praise and worship and think, I am praising like I'm supposed to be, not like I want to be. But when I look back, I want to see that despite the difficult season, that I was a praise person anyway. Oh. So I literally think when I have to tell this story to someone else, which one day I will, what will I say? How will I live to have the story live that I want to tell? Because this too shall pass.
Thank you for that, Chrystal. Yeah, we needed that. Church said amen on that one. And shout out to the matriarch, the powerhouse, the Deborah, the Esther herself, Mother Evans. Such an incredible force she was in the kingdom of God. Yeah. And I feel like you have really stepped fully. Do you feel like are your family saying you're really becoming like your mom? Because I just feel you're the way you speak and everything. Has that been said to you?
I hear that sometimes from people. I do hear that. I think I mostly hear from my family that I'll do things that look like her, like kind of have her antics or whatever. Wow. But I think the hardest part, honestly, is it goes back to what I said earlier, stepping into my design, even with my family. Because, siblings have roles and those roles shift and change over the years. Because there probably is we grew up together and you were bossy and we don't like it when you're bossing us. There probably has been a step back on my part so that I'm not the bossy one. So there's a little bit of a step forward though, because y'all come on, get it together. We need to do this. And I've been encouraged by other people that that's okay. Like being bossy isn't always a bad thing. So I'm trying to balance design and matriarchal, like this is the way it should be done. I'm a little bit of a perfectionist and it doesn't have to all be done my way. Somewhere in between hearing it and receiving it, the part that fits me in this season is where I'm at.
Yeah. Gosh, I got one last question for you. But before we do, just the 30-second, I'm so curious. Somehow you and Jonathan and Anthony and Priscilla have become the closest of friends. That takes work, right? That's intentional. How did you translate from sort of siblings to what I see now on display?
Intentional choices. I mean, one is, as I mentioned before, the way we were raised, we had forced fellowship and we had a whole ecosystem that even if we didn't like parts of it, like I hated when my dad made me go on vacation. Even if we didn't like parts of it, the forced fellowship created something that we still enjoy and love to this day. So it's even like a joke around our spouses. Like, are we invited? And like technically like they should be. And sometimes they're not. Sometimes it's like, we love y'all, but this is actually like, and so, and they're included, like, it's not that they're not included, but we developed that and have yearned for that since. if that makes any sense. So even when we go and we live our separate lives, there is a chemistry that we built, that our parents built by force fellowship, that we enjoy recreating. And when one of us is not there, it's not the same. So my parents continued to have certain traditions, like at Christmas time, we would go for 3 days away to a lake. All the families came, all the kids came. So even as we adulted and continued to build our own families, once or twice a year, we still all got together for something that my mother would make sure we did. So one of the ways I've stepped into that is that in COVID, we kept getting together for birthdays, like drive-by birthdays. And I said, we keep showing up multiple times a week. And we had been having first Sunday dinners together before that. And I said, I think we're seeing each other enough already. We're just getting back to first Sunday dinners is what we should do. And obviously my mother wasn't here. So I took that on. And now probably 9 or 10 months a year, first Sundays are at my house. And all the family is here. We pray over the kids. We recite scriptures. We do all the things we were doing when she was here. I picked that up and kept that going so that our kids will say, it was forced fellowship. We had to be over there. We had to clean up. Chrissy made me cut the lemons, but they'll remember it because it's a part of their DNA later. That's what we hope to build in them too.
Ooh, Lois Evans' daughter in the building, y'all. Keeping that legacy alive. Oh my goodness. I love that. Thank you for sharing that. And thank you for being with us on the path today. This has not felt like an interview at all. This has just felt like a conversation, like over coffee. I'm so thankful. I love to end with a little bit of a bonus surprise. I end this the same way every time. Okay. So hopefully you've not heard the question, but even if you've heard it, the answers are always different. So it's just to finish this sentence. So Chrystal, kind of like it was with our conversation on all the things we talked about as the backdrop, just finish it any way you'd like. Chrystal Evans Hurst, it's time for what? It's time for what?
It's time to believe. It's time to believe that God means what he says, that he will do what he says, and that he will finish what he started.
Wow. I knew it. I knew it. So good. I'm going to flip it on you because I have to, because I got Chrystal. I'm not going to let her go without asking. What is it not time for, Chrystal?
It's not time for thinking small.
Oh my goodness. Listen, we're going to call up the choir at this time to close us off. And somebody's been preaching for 30 minutes straight. Let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, I knew I was going to be blessed. Chrystal Evans Hurst, you are a gift to the body, gift to the kingdom. I'm so thankful. Would you ever consider coming back again?
Oh, I'd love to.
Yes. Very, very good. Well, listen, what can we get excited about? How can we track with you? I always call it healthy, safe stalking, but tell us like your socials, website, anything coming up, anything you'd like to share.
Yeah, I'm Chrystal Hurst on all the socials, Instagram, YouTube, X, Facebook, LinkedIn, everywhere. Chrystal has an H in it. CHRYSTAL, and then Hurst is HU. I'd love for you to track with me there. Again, my website is crystalhurst.com. And I have a newsletter that's weekly and just lets everybody know about my podcast. You can find that by going to crystalevanshurst.com/subscribe.
I love it. Thank you so much for being on the path. What a gift you are.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for listening to On the Path with Cheryl Nembhard, brought to you by Compassion Canada.